We are going to jump right into this. Rachel, you can see my screen, right? We're good?
I can, yes.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so if you don't know me, my name is Danielle Sullivan. I think I actually know most of these people on this call. I am the team leader over at Keller Williams Elevate and Keller Williams Living. Mark, thanks for being here. I know you got some people on this call as well. And I am joined by Rachel Hogue, who I used to work very closely alongside of. We used to hire people together for JMA and do all the fun things there. Rachel, obviously I asked you to lead this with me like 3 months ago because I know how busy your calendar is, because I know how great of a job JMA does with creating fans, creating a great reputation in the local community. And then I know about your guys' top 50 from working alongside of you. So I asked you to be here with me today. And for those of you at Legacy Group, I know you know who Rachel is, but for those that might be on the call from Living or Elevator Shervenic, they might not know who you are. So could you quickly just introduce yourself, maybe tell everybody who you are, what you do, and then give us some fun numbers about JMA and your team?
Sure. Rachel Hogue. So I have been with Jose Medina and Associates since 2008, been in real estate since 2006. So I have seen some different markets when it comes to real estate and things like that. Worked my way through the team. I was not a licensed agent when I started. I was on the listing side of like going out to properties, not necessarily taking the pictures, but doing on the marketing side of thing, getting on the MLS. Worked my way into director of operations, got my license, became a listing agent. Currently, I'm a listing agent on the team. We do buyer's agents and listing agents, and then also director of sales for our team. So overseeing our inside sales agents and our outside sales agents with accountability and scripting and their top 50 and touches to them and all of that. So it's a wild ride. I sold 36 houses last year, almost 9 million in volume. The team sold 676 homes at our highest volume ever at 163 million, which was pretty exciting. So big year for us.
So that's why she's here. I think this is also really timely because when we talked to connect about this call, you had said that everybody was actually turning in their top 50. So I said VIP before promoting this. Rachel uses the words top 50 at JMA. They're really the same thing. And alongside of the VIP, I think the second conversation is how you create super fans within your database and your community and the people around you. So we're going to talk through a few things today. I also want to sort of lead this semi as much conversation as we can with you guys. So I think the intention behind this is to sort of start small and then you can scale. Obviously, JMA is a very large team and their budget might be a lot larger than what yours is as an individual agent or on a team, or if you're brand new or whatever that looks like. And so our intention here is to sort of talk through starting small and then what it could look like to scale. And so I would love for part of this call to be conversational, for you guys to add some input. So we'll get into that. I think the most important question right now, though, and I made these slides, and so if they're bad, it's because I didn't ask anybody for help. So I'm sorry. I think the first question to start with is, why do we do this? So going back to the top 50 or this VIP group within, and we're going to get into the how and we're going to get into the who. But why do you guys do this? And I guess maybe one of the other questions, Rachel, is when did you guys start? I mean, you've been with Jose since pretty close to the beginning. So when did you guys start doing this, and why did you start this top 50 or this VIP list?
So I mean, it's easy to say, and it's going to be kind of obvious, I think, probably to most people on the call, that like we want to do business with people who already know, like, and trust us. It's actually kind of easier business. We don't have to convince them as much to work with us and why they want to work with us versus, one of 1,000 other agents in the county. So the whole point of the why is to keep your business growing. So like we do look at getting new leads and meeting people that we've never met before and things like that. But this opportunity is, let's keep in touch with the people that know us, that can refer people to us, that we've done a great job working with them in real estate, that they can build our database just by being a outspoken raving fan for us. So it's really just to keep the business growing. We have kind of a requirement on the team. I shouldn't say kind of, there is a requirement on the team that the team will provide 75% of your closed leads. Like they will come from the team, but 25% of that needs to come from you. So these need to be people in your sphere, in your database, that you're reaching out to and talking to and getting referrals from and things like that.
So if I asked you a question on average, and I don't know that we did this in the pre-conversation, but if I asked you a question on average, if you've got 50 people in this VIP list, and we're going to talk about what that VIP list looks like, and can you have more than that and can you have less than that? But if you've got 50 people in that list, on average, about how many referrals could you get from each of those people every year?
It depends on who you have in that list, which goes into a lot of the conversation that we're going to be having as to who's on that list. So you have some people that, for example, this is going to be kind of a funny example, but my parents have lived in their house since the day that they got married. So like they've never used me to sell their home, but they refer everybody that they know at their church and where they used to work to me. So like they're part of my top 50, which sounds really funny because they're also my parents. But like but they are raving fans for what we do and what our team does and
Yeah,
how we can help people. So like we want to make sure that even though I'm not getting an actual transaction from them, that I'm still getting referrals and things like that. I don't have an exact number, Danielle, to say exactly how many
sure.
we get just from our top 50. And I will tell you that this assignment that I have for our agents, which is figuring out their top 50 and then their touches to those people, those 6 touches for the year, is probably my easiest homework assignment to get from them and to even give because they want to. Like these are people that they want to be contacting and reaching out to, and these are people that are giving them business. So, I mean, if they're required to bring 25% of closings, and it can be more than that, I know a lot of agents that have been in the business a long time and, that gets closer to 35 or even 40% that they're bringing in their own business. And that has to do with their top 50.
So I would assume that your parents are giving you probably more than 2 referrals a year, but let's just say you've got, I mean, let's do some quick math here so I don't have to pull out the calculator. But if you had 50 people in your top VIP list, right? Your top 50, your VIP list that you were consistently touching, and we're going to talk about what that looks like, and they can be very small, they can be very large touches. That's weird to say. If you had 50 people in your VIP list and they each just gave you 2 referrals a year, right? Now, I know your parents give you way more than that, but if they just gave you 2 referrals a year, that would be 100 referrals in real estate for that year. Now, if half of those ended up in closings, or 30% of them ended up in closings, or 20% of them, you're looking at a very big piece of your business. I mean, I don't know everybody's production on this call, but if you just consistently, instead of working through your database of 2,000 people or 400 people, if you just worked through 50 people and gave them a really great experience and continued to pour into them, they each gave you 2 referrals a year, and let's just say you closed 30% of them, that's 30 deals right there, right? So I think by the end of this, that's the math that you guys should be doing. It's not just, well, I've got $10,000 or 10,000. I've got 10,000 people in my database, right? Or I've got 6,000, or I've got 600 people. Okay. And how many of those people have you in their database, right? Like how many of those people would call you as soon as they need something or would refer you to other people? So I think that's a big piece of the why behind this. And Rachel, you said that people do business with people they like, trust, and know. And so I guess another question I have that I didn't ask you, do you tell people that they're in this VIP list or no?
Not necessarily. I think they probably can figure it out per se, but we don't necessarily say we used to have a VVIP program that we would, after a transaction, if we liked you and you seemed to like us, we would make you a VVIP and you got a letter and said, these are all the things that you can use our truck for your lifetime. Like, whenever you need to use a moving truck, we have it. And if you need a notary service and stuff like that. So you absolutely can let them know, quote unquote, that they're in the club. Our system isn't just that specific, I guess.
Sure. Okay, cool. All right, so let's talk through VIP clients versus the regular people, because there is a difference, right? And we need the regular people too. But let's talk like what is the difference between a client and a VIP client? And we're going to talk about how we're going to choose them, but what do you get at the JMA level by just being a client or by being in a database? What are some of the things? I know we talked through some of this and I know it was a long list, but if you're thinking about the people in your life around you, your database, your friends, your family, everybody, right? Not your VIP, everybody. What is everybody getting? What are some of those things that JMA or you specifically give to the people in your world that are not a part of the VIP list?
Yeah. So a lot of things I talk about today will be JMA specific because
Sure.
we've just built a lot around that. And so the agent can just plug directly into our system and our leverage and our programs around that. So like everybody in our database gets invited to our client party at the end of the year. Everybody gets invited to partake in they can pick up a pie on the 4th of July. Like there's certain events that everyone is invited to. Now there are some events that we can't invite everyone to because we have actual leads in our database is around like 30 to 40,000, people that we can reach out to and things like that. And that's just kind of obnoxious. So, um, the VIP clients are getting personal touches from their specific agent. They can also be getting, we have a client for life person, so they can be getting touches from her as well. And yes, we do say touches a lot and it sounds super weird, but we kind of try and get over it.
Not your way. But like everybody, if they sell a house with you, or I'm sorry, if they buy a house from you, everybody gets a home anniversary card, right?
That's correct. Yes.
And everybody gets a birthday card, right?
I'm going to put an asterisk around everybody. I mean,
Well,
we do have some people that it's not the best experience, and sometimes we decide that maybe we don't want to continue business, a professional relationship with them, so we will not necessarily include them. But yes, everybody gets a house anniversary card. Everybody gets a birthday card as long as we know their birthday. Everybody gets, if we have their email address, they're getting videos twice a month that are updates from Jose about the different programs we offer or about a market update or something like that. So there's a lot of touches directly to just the masses. And I think people know that that's probably to the masses at that point.
yeah. And I think though, like the conversation I think is like VIP versus super fans, and sometimes those are two and the same thing, but I think you can still create super fans with clients. So I think you can still, I would, if I asked every single person on this call who sends out birthday cards to all of their clients, or most of them, I don't know what the percentage would be. If I asked everybody on this call who sends out happy anniversary cards. And so I do think that that allows you to set yourself apart and kind of create this super fan database, and yet you still have this VIP group as well. So same with like if you guys are in command and you're using quarterly calls, right? Or you're using those monthly the monthly neighborhood nurtures, if they still call them that, or the neighborhood searches, like things like that still allow you to create a customizable search for them, and it's tailored to their neighborhood or wherever it is that they're looking. So you can still create super fans, but there's still a very big difference in clients versus VIP clients. I'm gonna go a little bit off a little bit because you made a comment about your events and this huge party movie that you put on every single year. And I promised to also kind of start small with that. So when we were talking about your guys' largest event of the year, you said, well, that's not what it looked like the first year. So can you talk about what it looked like the first year and how much money JMA might have spent on it when you guys first started doing one of your largest client events of the year?
Sure. So we do a client party. We rent out a local movie theater, like an old school movie theater, downtown Canton, and we invite our past clients, our database, even the community to the event. And the first year that we did it, we played Polar Express. We told all the kids to wear their pajamas, all that kind of thing. All we did was, I think there were 5 of us on the team at that time. We all made homemade cookies. We had some sponsors from obviously title company, lender, things like that. So to cover the cost of the movie theater, you'd be shocked at how much a movie theater doesn't cost. I feel like to rent out, as long as you're not getting, we always joke now because now we have popcorn and we do hot chocolate and all that kind of stuff. And like the popcorn is actually more expensive per, like when we buy as many boxes as we do than the actual rental of the entire movie theater. So I always say, don't create a narrative kind of in your head that like, I can't afford that because you don't even know how much it costs just yet. So find that out. Plus you can get sponsorships and things for them. So our first event, we had, I think around 200, 250 people there. And it's grown to, we usually have about 750 at the event. And it's the Sunday after Thanksgiving. It's always that Sunday, that afternoon, we show a different Christmas movie. It's a great time. And everybody makes cookies still, like we still do that. That's from year 1. But it's definitely grown. And we, like I said, we do popcorn and hot chocolate and all sorts of stuff. Have tons of
I was gonna
giveaways.
ask you why you didn't make pies, but then I realized it was a Sunday after Thanksgiving and you've been making pies for like 2 weeks at that point.
You got
So
it. Bing,
yes.
bing, bing. Good job.
Okay, so we did start small at some point, right? Like we did start small, we didn't pay a lot of money for it. And so again, I don't think that this and to be clear, that's a client event. That's everybody, right?
Yes.
That's not
Yeah.
just your VIPs.
That's not just VIP. No.
Okay. So like those are our super fans, right? Those are the people that know to come every single year. They're bringing their kids, they're doing their things. They don't have to be VIP to plug into some of those things.
Correct.
Okay, this is where the interaction from the crowd comes in. So, you can unmute if you want to, but if you want, you can also drop it in the chat. I guess thinking through client, only, client specific, is there anything that you guys are doing, in your businesses that creates little super fans? So what I mean by that is, does anybody in this call send out a birthday card to every single person? Do you guys send out anniversary cards? Are you doing anything at a small scale or a large scale to basically everybody in your database as a client? And then we're going to get into the VIP stuff. But if there's anything that you guys do a little bit differently, would love for you to just drop that in the chat. And if you don't, then that's okay. That's why you're here. Calendars. Awesome. Ashley, is that something that you do at the end of the year or the beginning of the next year?
I do it. I just started at the end of the last year.
Perfect. And are they sports calendars? Like I know some people send out, I don't know who would send out the Browns, but some people do. Or are they just normal calendars with your name on them? What do they look like?
They're just the regular calendar, like that you stick on the fridge, the little calendar magnets. But I have seen the sports ones that I really like and are really useful.
Yeah.
Danielle, I was going to chime in. This is not something I do. This is what someone does for me, and it sticks out. You actually probably know this person. She's from your prior market center experience, but she sends out cards regularly, but they're for off the beaten path thing. So like I got a half birthday card last week. Thanks to the rest of you, no one else sent me a half birthday card. But I was like, oh, how charming! Thanks, Jill, for thinking of me.
Oh, it was Jill. You have Jill?
Yeah, Jill. I'm in her database. We get
So am I.
not just a home anniversary, but a wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
So like it's like the next level of attentiveness, and I know it's a system for her,
Yeah.
but it works for me. I'm not going to use her to buy my next house, but I think she's on the right track.
Yeah. So I think to Mark's point, that's a company. I think it's called Send Out Cards. There's a few of them. We've toyed around with a few of them, but it is easy to just like see something on social media, grab it. So like it's actually super sweet that she does it. But sometimes I'll just get something in the mail and it's like this blown up picture of my husband and I, like my daughter and I doing something. But it's like, oh my gosh, that's so sweet. Also, you picked the worst picture, but thank you so much for thinking of me, right? So those, again, like that's not super small because it does cost, but it doesn't cost that much. And then when you send that to that, and you get so many cards every single month, when you send that to that person, they're like, oh my gosh, they saw me, right? Like, oh my gosh, they saw me on social media and doing this. And I think there's so many things that you can do. Yeah. So I think, again, if you wanted to start super small, I think you can buy your own cards and then you have to mail them and do all the things. If you want to introduce leverage into some of those things, you can pay into some of those companies. Yeah, Jill is amazing. Fabulous. Okay, cool. Anything else on this that maybe everybody does for all of the people? I mean, I think, again, I think there's a lot of things tech-wise that we can be doing. I think we can be putting people on drip campaigns, things like that. Christmas cards are a big thing, or holiday cards. So cool. All right, so let's get into VIP clients, who they are, what we do for them, what that looks like. I think this is a bigger piece of the conversation. And so, Rachel, we talked about this a little bit, and I don't know that this is the exact list, and I think this list can be edited, but when we think about how do we build this thing, how does somebody get into your VIP list? So Rachel requires that everybody on JMA, including Jose, has a top 50, right? Now, does that top 50 ever get bigger, Rachel?
Not really. We kind of cap out at 50 just because like there's a lot of touches that they're gonna have to make to them throughout the year. And if you do more than that, you're just gonna stop doing it. Like you're just not gonna get all the work done. So it really is kind of, I mean, if you have 52 or something like that, it's okay, but it really does kind of cap at 50.
And if I'm a newer agent or I just moved to the area, is it okay if I have 40? Is it okay if I have 35? Is it okay if I throw some other people in there that might just be family and friends? Talk to me about that.
If you're at JMA, you have to have 50. No, I'm kidding. If you're like newer to the area or even to real estate, that type of thing, like I do challenge that thinking. Like I think that you should probably have 30 people. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but again, like my mom and dad are on my top 50 and I've been in real estate for a long time. So like there should be people, and I'm not saying that your parents are always your raving fans, but there's people in your life that are going to refer you and things like that. So and these are also people that you're going to get information to and be touching and letting them know, like, here's the new market update and all this kind of stuff. So you're going to be giving them information that's going to make them want to refer you as well, especially when you're starting out. So I would say, and that should be, I don't think anybody should have less probably than 25. Even as a brand new agent, because these are people that you've decided you're going to be intentional about doing touches to them, conversations with them, to talk to them about real estate, to see who they know that you can be helping, that type of thing. They're going to be a referral source for you.
Yeah. I also think in the beginning, it's, and if you're a newer agent or if you're not a newer agent, I think a lot of times real estate agents get stuck in like, I'm going to do all the things and then I'm just going to do them all kind of halfway because then I get distracted and I have to go do another thing. So everybody wants to say, oh, well, all 200 people in my database are VIP. I want to give them all a great experience. I want to do all the things for all the people. And really what you end up doing is small amounts of things, not all the way, right? So I think when you get very specific and say, I'm going to still do a lot of things for my clients, but I'm going to get very intentional about these relationships. It allows you to concentrate on them. Again, if you go back to the math of getting referrals from them, it allows you to concentrate on less people, but put more effort and more into that relationship to make sure that they remember that you sell. And to Rachel's point, like she also said her parents are in there and they haven't bought or sold property with her. So they don't have to be past clients. They don't have to be family and friends. They can be family and friends. They can be past clients as long as they have given you or will give you referrals. So let's talk about the first one too. Key referrals or networking group. What does that mean to you?
So I am part of, and I encourage people to be a part of a networking group. I mean, there are people on our team that have started network groups because there isn't one that they want to join, or that one that they liked already has a real estate agent in it, or whatever the case is. This can be as formal as you want or as kind of as informal as you want, but these are people like-minded people that are in the fact of like they're business people, and you're going to refer to them and they're going to refer to you. So it's, it's a handout and a hand up kind of thing, that you can help grow their business. They can help you grow their business, vice versa. You got what I'm saying? And there are also people that can help just concepts. It's also nice to get outside of just the real estate realm, in my opinion. We talk to a lot of real estate agents and real estate teams and all that, which is great. And it's nice to hear from a financial industry or from, there's an attorney in my group. And so like he can fill me in on things that I didn't know was coming or whatever the case is. So just being an asset to each other, but also being able to be a referral source to them, for them. My attorney just today, like I had one of my agents asking who's the guy that I recommend. So it helps your business in so many ways because you have people that you can refer to as well. A vendor spreadsheet is one thing that, kind of a side note, but like one thing I would recommend. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything to make it, but it's a great touch to your top 50 that you can say, hey, if you ever need a roofer, I know a great guy. Like he went out last week and did a roof on a property that needed to close and he did a great job. It looks great. There's no nails all over the ground and all that kind of stuff, whatever. So like letting people know that you have connections to handymen and contractors and hairdressers and whatever the case is. Like a vendor spreadsheet can be like your number one kind of touch or reminder to your clients as well, and it doesn't cost you anything.
And like pro tip there, like two things, there is business to business connection, right? So if you're like, I don't know a roofer or I don't know a plumber that I can put on there, a really good first place to start is you could actually go into your own brokerage's Facebook group and probably search it. And then you will have like somebody will have asked a month ago or a year ago for a great plumber and people will give like, their own recommendations. And then my suggestion is to reach out to that plumber, to reach out to that roofer and to let them know that you're actually creating this VIP list of vendors and you love to grab some time with them. Like business to business relationships and conversations, those are important too. And then to Rachel's point, like you get to give that to your clients. What I wouldn't suggest you do is just go to Google and try to find some plumbers just so you can add to this vendor list. Because if they don't show up and reflect you and your values, then your clients get ticked off, right? When you've given them somebody that's actually not great and you found them on Google. And so I would say if you're looking to build that, start internally in your KW Facebook pages, because I can almost guarantee you will find some good reviews in there, and then set up some business to business conversations and start building that up. So
It's also a
great.
great conversation to have with your VIP clients. If you're having coffee with them, like having coffee with one of your clients, and you're like, hey, I need a roofer, or I'm looking for a roofer that I can refer some business to. Have you used anybody in the past? It's a great conversation starter as well.
Yeah. Well, this goes into something, I feel like I'm a little all over the place, but this goes into something else we talked about when we were talking, like you kind of making the ask to the client, like your VIP client. You said, hey, I need a roofer to add to my vendor list, right? Or hey, do you know anybody? You also said during some of your client events, or if you guys do something, you then go back to your clients and ask them for feedback, which I thought was interesting. Why do you do that?
Well, two things. One, you've become a VIP client, so we actually care what you think. We care what clients think too, and hence reviews and stuff like that. But like, we know that you've been around, or maybe you've been to this event before or whatever. So like, we want to hear what feedback you like. We can interpret how an event went, like based on how we participated in it, but it's going to be a completely different experience for somebody who came to the client party, for example, had to come in from the cold. Where did they park? Did they find a place to park? Did they have to park down in Timbuktu? Did they not like that they had to go downtown where there's one-way streets? Like, then what did they do with their coat when they got inside? I mean, it's like super specific and kind of weird, but like, you can improve your event by knowing, or your touches or whatever, by knowing what people appreciate and what they don't. But one thing I'll say is don't ask for feedback, but then never like address it. Not that you'll change everything about your event, not that I can create parking in downtown Canton or anything like that, but like, does it make sense that we say, hey, there's parking available on 4th Street or whatever? But feedback's important to us so that we can make our events better, so more people will come to them and people will continue coming to them. So we go to our VIP clients because those are the people we know the best anyway, so that we feel like they'll probably be the most honest.
Yeah, I mean, I also think like the VIP, intentionally, right? We're trying to create and foster a relationship there. And so when you ask somebody for feedback, they're like, huh, like they care what I think. Like, I don't know. I just think that when you said that, like it makes it it doesn't make it as transactional, right? Like it makes it feel like it's a two-way relationship and they're coming to this event and then they get to be a part of maybe the next one or the feedback that goes into the next one. So anyways, small little piece that I thought was great.
It also gives you a chance to talk to them after the event. Like you call them before the event to invite them to it, you see them at the event, and then you call them after to find out what went well or what didn't. So it's another touch.
Love that. Okay, last two things on here. Investors. Like, I think that's a little bit self-explanatory, right? Investors know other investors. And when you give investors a really great experience, they tell other investors that you gave them a really great experience. So if you've got a few that you've worked with in the past, I would add them to your VIP list. Now, something that we're going to touch on, different people on the VIP list sometimes get touched a different way, right? So your VIP clients that are investors, they might not live around here and you might not be able to pop by them, right, with something. So just because they're on the VIP list, and we're going to get into this, doesn't mean that all 50 of them get all 50 of the same touches. So you're still allowed to bring other people into this and touch them in different ways. And that might be sending them different kinds of reports than obviously popping by with little seeds or something. But I do think investors talk. Obviously, we know that. And so putting one or two of them on there is something that you guys should be doing. And then the last one we added on here was just referral partners. So what we mean by that is if you've got another referral partner outside of Ohio, or I guess inside of Ohio, but outside of your location, that refers business into you, I would make sure that you put them on there so that you remember to continue that relationship and that you follow up with them. I've got a few, and I'm sure Mark has this too, but I've got a few agents across KW that directly talk to new agents and bring them into my market center. And so once a month, it's on my calendar just to reach out to them and see how they are, because I want them to continue putting people into our market center because that's how they choose to grow their business. So I think referral partners, if you've got friends that are licensed, and if you don't know anybody that's licensed in other states, get into, there's like 1,000 networking groups, and you can find even KW specific ones. Get in there and just start talking to people, or just start commenting on posts a little bit, start offering a little bit of value. Now, when somebody posts in our Cleveland one here, they're like, hey, we're looking for a Cleveland agent. And in 6 seconds, there's like 48 comments. So I don't think that that's the way that you build referral partners. You build them within the group, or you build them by traveling to different events and meeting other agents, by talking to other agents. But once you have 1 or 2 referral partners, or 4, whatever that looks like, I think they should be added to that VIP list as well. Anything else here that anybody else can think of? These were just kind of the, I would say 4, but there's a few in number 2 that we came up with. Anybody else have a VIP or thinking about starting a VIP list or a top 50 and you include certain people? Cool. All right. Anything else to add here, Rachel? Oh, Mark, did you have something? No, I thought you put your hand. Okay.
Do you want me to talk now about how often do we update it?
Yes, you can. And then I think we're going to get into what we do with it. So yes, let's talk about how often we update it.
So we at JMA, they have to update it once a year. So like it was due this past Friday, they had to tell me who their top 50 are. They have to update it in our CRM, and then what their touches are. So they're required, it's a minimum of 6 touches throughout the year. Now they don't have to do all touches to all people, kind of like Danielle was saying before. So they could have actually 12 touches scheduled, and each touch is for 25 people. So you're still touching your top 56 times. But they look at this, you can look at it throughout the year, you can change it up whenever you want, and they're required to look at it and make sure that it's who they want and who is the most beneficial on that list for the year. They do that annually.
And again, it's 50. And so if we have a really great interaction with somebody in March and we want to add somebody to it, we don't have to kick somebody out, right? Like if we want to add a person or 2 to it, we totally can. How often personally for you, I know you update it yearly, but how often does the list actually change?
The top 50 list probably changes. I mean, it's got to be a pretty significant like transaction to change at the transaction.
Okay.
Usually what has to happen for me is that like if I remember them like at the end of the year when I'm doing my taxes, or at the end of the year when I'm doing like my magnetic calendars, just like Ashley, if I remember who they were and what they sold, and I like remember that whole story, then, and we've been in touch since then, even though they sold their house in March, they might get to be on my list. So like I just had an agent who, or I'm sorry, not an agent, a past client who I sold their house 2 years ago, and she reached out and she was like, hey, is this still your number? I have a friend in the area that's going to be selling. Can I have her reach out to you here? And they moved out of state. So I was like, I've kind of lost touch with them a little bit, because obviously they don't come to our client events and things like that. And I was like, oh my goodness, those people are going on my top 50, right? Because like they remembered me from a number of years ago without me really trying, don't tell anybody. And because they had a good experience and I was still in their phone. And so like I get to work with their family member. So they need to go on my top 50, even though they're not necessarily someone that I'm expecting to help buy or sell a house for here anytime soon. They're referring me business, and I need to jump on board of that.
Well, and your touches will look different, right? Because you said that they don't live in Ohio.
Correct.
So like, okay, so we've got our top 50, we've made the list, we've turned it into Rachel. We know who's going on it. What do we do with it now? Let's talk through some of these touches. And I think it's really important, because you guys are real estate agents. I think it's really important to say, I'm going to get a calendar out, because we've got to make sure that we're managing this and we're tracking this. We can't just decide in January we're going to do it, and then the day before it's due, we forget that we haven't picked up all of our pop buys or something. So I think it's important to get a calendar out, and you can decide to do this a few different ways. You can sort of align some of these touches with the seasons. You can align some of them with holidays if you want to. Remember that this is not birthday cards and this is not home anniversaries, right? Those are things that everybody gets. So talk to us, give us some examples of what some of the agents do for their 6 touches.
So a lot of ours coincide with events that the team is offering. And then because we have like 6 events, which works out since they have 6 touches, but a lot of times they go on and add a couple other things into their list. So for example, like we have a Valentine's Day candy giveaway coming up for Valentine's Day. Now, each agent only gets 25, so this is only going to be a touch to half of their top 50, so that we need another touch for their other 25. So most of them, I won't say all, but most of them have that as a touch to their top 50, that's going to be who they're inviting to that event. They don't have to. It doesn't have to be their top 25. It could be all the past clients they had last year instead or something like that.
So I'm going to stop you because in our conversation, and again, I think this helps when you're thinking about who to target and for what, because not all 50 people get candy, right? Because you only have 25 slots. So you yourself, with your top 50, you're kind of specific about who you invite. So who are you inviting for the candy on your
Right.
top 50?
Very leading question. Good job, Danielle.
I'm like, did we say out loud we weren't going to say this in this call? It doesn't matter. We're saying it.
It's all good. So I always focus on my single ladies or my single men for that matter, but someone that may not have someone getting them Valentine's candy, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. So people that, and you know, they've all got friends and gal pals and things like that too, but this is just kind of a way, it's one of the touches and kind of being intentional about the different client events that we have. Like I'm going to focus in my top 50, who does that fit? A single person, male or female, that I want to make sure that they feel extra little bit of love around Valentine's holiday. I'm going to make sure that they're in the 25 that I get to send to.
Yeah. And so again, if you're thinking through this, and the way that JMA does this is they actually get candy and peanuts or nuts from a company, and then they make people RSVP, and then they get to go to the office and pick up their stuff. And they work with a local company to do that. And it is a little pricey at this point, and that's because you've scaled at JMA, right? And so could you go to the store and pick up 25 boxes of candy and do pop buys to all of your single ladies and single men for a fraction of the price? The answer is yes, right?
Absolutely.
So
or we could
again,
take a little Reese cup or something, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be anything gigantic or whatever. It's more the gesture than the actual product.
yeah. Cool. All right. What else do you do?
So I'm going to give you all sorts of ideas that like different agents do. Very common one for St. Patrick's Day in March is a card of some kind with a lottery ticket inside. So a scratch off, hey, I'm lucky that I get to have you as a past client and a friend and all that, blah, blah, blah. You can find all sorts of cute things on Pinterest too, ideas and things like that. Springtime, we see a lot of seed packets, stuff that you can mail in a card. Pop buys are huge. I highly recommend to our agents that they do pop buys throughout the year, whether that's like 10 a month or something, so that they can, pop buys take time. In your top 50, you don't want to pick your top 50 just based on geographic area. Kind of like Danielle was saying, you know, you're going to have investors and different people, referral partners and stuff that will be outside of your can drop off, pop by area kind of thing. But is it something you can mail them, that type of stuff? We do the 4th of July pie giveaway. So that's one that most people are doing for their top 50. And again, it's beyond, like the team is already sending the postcard for the pie. My touch, the requirement I'm requiring from the agent is that it has to go beyond that. Team's already sending out the postcard. You have to reach out to them. You have to call them, invite them. Did you get the postcard? Can I get you signed up? Did you want apple or cherry? That type of thing. So like the actual touch to the client, making sure that you're making that personal connection.
Yeah. Something else that, I don't know if JMA does this, but I know Impact Group used to do this, and I've seen other teams do this, is like around Easter, you get egged, right? Like, so you take 10 eggs or 15 eggs or 20 eggs and you fill them with little goodies, and you go to the clients in your top 50, probably not all 50 of them that might have kids, right? So different than Valentine's Day, but they might have kids, and you egg their house with fake eggs with goodies in them, not real eggs. And then you leave a little sign, and it's usually the day before Easter or the weekend of Easter, and you leave a little sign saying that you're going to come back and grab the eggs in the next 2 days, right? So they don't throw the eggs away. They put them in a little bag. You give them a bag and then leave it on their door or something, and then you go back and pick it up, right? So I think just like that's inexpensive things that you can do to create super fans, right? But to create this really great experience for the people in your world that make them feel really bad if they don't give you referrals, by the way. Like they feel really bad that you've done all these things for them and their family or their kids, or if they're single and they got chocolate, right? Like it makes it really hard for them not to refer business to you when you do these things. And that's something very or pretty cheap that you can also, even like we said this before, but you can go in with a lender, you can go in with a vendor and put their logo on the Easter eggs, right? Or on the sign that says, I'm going to come get these Easter eggs in 2 days, or whatever that looks like. So you can do a lot of things. Something else that Impact does is, I think they still do this, but they have the yard signs, and the yard sign goes right in the front yard saying you've been egged by Impact Group. And now people are driving by and they're like, what's that? And then their neighbors are talking a little bit. So there's a lot of things that you can do to get creative. I think the reason that a lot of real estate agents don't do some of these things is because they think they have to do them for all the people. Like you're not taking your entire database and doing this. You're just chunking it down and getting a little bit specific. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Keep going. What else do they do?
Egging is a good one. We've actually, we did that for a number of years, and that's one thing that we've kind of stopped doing, which is a little bit interesting. But we had the signs, you've been egged by JMA. We did, one thing that we've talked about doing but haven't done yet is booing. So at Halloween, and sometimes some agents do this on their own, where you just take a treat bag and put a balloon on it. It looks like a ghost. You put eyeballs on it and stuff, and you've been booed. Not like boo, but like boo. For Halloween. And again, that would be probably people with kids and things like that that are gonna find that cute. Mums in the fall doing Popeyes and doing, there's one agent on our team, Val, she would do mumkins. So you literally carve out a pumpkin, put a mum in it, set it in it, and you give the whole thing to them. So it's this cute little decoration they can keep on their porch. Danielle says, wow. So you can go like as
Imagine
a
carving 25 pumpkins. Like what? Wow.
And
But like
again,
Val.
that could be 10 people, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that could be, the top tier or whatever, the closest to your house, or the people that would appreciate it the most or whatever. So, or the guy that never decorates his house, he gets a mumpkin because then, he
Aha.
actually has something on his front porch. Things like that.
Love it.
There's all sorts of stuff. August, you can do back to school supplies. If you want to drop stuff off for that, you can do. I've seen people, they'll go get coupons like at McDonald's for like a $1 ice cream cone or something, which you can put in a card and say, hey, Bob and Mary, we know Jill and Jack are going back to school, and here's a sweet treat, or here's $5 to Milk and Honey to go get some ice cream before you have to go back to school or something like that. So I mean, there's 1,000 ideas. And again, Pinterest can be your best friend and all of that too.
Yeah. I think the point is, I think for me, when I thought about the VIP list, they all got the same thing. So I think talking to you and kind of splitting it up and deciding who gets what and when. I also think the biggest piece of this is just planning it out, right? So like making sure you have a calendar, making sure that you're saying these 30 people are getting it at this time and these 20 people are getting this at this time. Because if you're going to do it, you have to execute on it, or you're just going to have a ton of supplies coming for your Popeyes and then you're not going to make them.
Yeah.
Do you know? Oh, go ahead.
This becomes part of our accountability. Like my one-on-ones with the agents each month, like this is, okay, so how did last month's go? This is what you did last month. Great. Okay, you've got one coming up in a month and a half. What are you preparing? What are you getting in place so that you're ready to go for that particular event, that type of thing. And it's also, to your point too, like you want to make it something that you want to do as an agent. So as opposed to like JMA saying, okay, all agents, you're doing these 6 touches to your people, like I want it to be personalized and to feel like it's coming from you and that it matters to you and that it matters to your client. So it needs to be a personalized experience, I think.
Yeah, agreed. Cool. Any questions on what to do with your VIP clients, or any thoughts or other things that you could be doing?
I have a thought. I think particularly, and you kind of address this in the early going, for the solo agent that says, I don't have a massive budget and blah, blah, blah. The best money spent in your business is the money spent on these people. It's not like which Facebook ad should I run or which referral platform should I pay into. It's like, no, this is that money, and it's good money. So like that's just one encouragement there. And then just to highlight another thing that Rachel said, um, even if people don't come to the thing, the value is in the touch. And it's about like the conversation is the relationship. And so, oh, they didn't get the thing or they couldn't make it, bummer. It's like, well, the value is the touch. And so it's great if they come or it's great if they like the thing, but being able to communicate, I care and I thought of you and I want you to know that. I think that's as much of the battle as the thing itself. So those are my two
Yeah.
highlights that I'm picking up so far.
I would say even to that mark, like with the Valentine's thing that they're like, people are driving maybe far, maybe not far into the office for a box of chocolate. Like they will drive for a box of chocolate and they get excited about it. So it really like it doesn't matter what it is. The fact that you're giving them something, it like to Mark's point, is why we do it. And I also think if you're going to do this, you've also got to schedule the first invite and then you've got to schedule the second invite in your phone, right? Like how many times do we invite me. How many times do I invite our agents to things? And then when I say, hey, would love to have you there. They're like, oh, right, RSVP, right? Like, oh, right, I'll be there. So making sure that you're putting it in your calendar to not just reach out once to these people, but sometimes twice or three times to these people. Like make sure that they know it's not just like a generic email that's going to everybody or a generic text that is going to everybody. And it's okay if they don't show up. But people are driving into the office for a box of chocolate. So like they will come in if you're saying, I want to give you something, or I'd like to
People
stop by
want
your.
free stuff. It's crazy. Like the pies were like when we started, they were $5 pies. Like they didn't even cost you much to go and buy it yourself, you know? And like people will come in on the heat of the hottest day of the year, which we can't think about right now, but like, and come get their pie, free pie. It's a good time.
Well, I think something also interesting that you guys do is I've heard of so many people doing Pie Day, and it's always right around Thanksgiving. And you're the only team I know that does it on July 4th.
You want to know why?
I do want to know why.
Because I said, absolutely not. We cannot do it at Thanksgiving because that's when I'm busy making pies.
Yeah. And so they went July
it is.
4th. But because of that reason, like you are the only team I know that does that. Like it's so like, again, be different, be a little bit interesting, make sure it works for you.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else on this one? All right, so let's talk about super fans. So Rachel and I listened to this podcast, the MREA podcast. Jason Abrams did it, and he interviewed Brittany Hodak, who has created super fans for multiple companies and multiple people, including Taylor Swift. So we all know how that went. It worked. And so I think there was just a few things we wanted to touch on that came out of the conversation with creating super fans, because I think we can have this VIP list of people that we spend so much time with and we pour more dollars into, more money into, but we can also create like these raving super fans of people around us just by being us and just by going a little bit of the extra step here. So we're just going to kind of walk through. Super fans really stands. There's obviously something for every single letter. So we're just going to walk through what this stands for and then give you guys a few quick tips around it. And this is how you can create super fans with anybody. This is people in your database, people in your life, people that you want to conduct business with at some point. So if you're not quite at the point where you're ready for that VIP list, which Rachel just said you can have 20 people on it, so you're ready for the VIP list. But at the very least, we can do a really good job at making everybody around us really like us and come in and be superheroes and kind of create those super fans. So the first one starts with story. And when I talked to Rachel about this, I thought about the story of JMA, the story of your business, your individual business, the story of you and your family and all these things, whatever that looks like. But when I thought about this with JMA, I thought about their story, but also their reputation in the community, in the market that they're in all the things. So Rachel, can you talk to us a little bit about, I know a lot of your business comes from, a lot of the team's business is past clients, referrals, things like that. There's another piece of the business of people calling in because they see Jose's face on everything. Why did he make the decision to do what he did with his story and his reputation? And he can't change his headshot because of this, because everybody knows what his face is. Why did he do that?
It was definitely a branding decision, you know, even from the dawn of time or the dawn of JMA, which has worked out to our advantage over the course of time. It's definitely a long-term investment, if you will. But the branding is his face. It's who he is. It's Jose Medina and Associates. So like, you see it on all the signs, you know, like he gets credit for having all the listings that are out there. And if you asked him, he's not going to know, he's going to know a third, maybe, you know, even a fifth of the listings that we have listed. Does he have actually any information about, because those are his, as opposed to one of the other 5 listing agents on the team. So like, but to the outside world, that Jose guy, he sells a lot of houses because he does. And it's a result of all the agents and all the people on the team for it. So it's definitely just building the brand and having consistency and having your sign out there and on the trucks and all that kind of thing. So it was definitely intentional from the beginning. Now, did we know it was going to be as big as it was or whatever? Not necessarily, but here we
Yeah.
go.
When I think about this too, I think about, and we do this a lot on social media, right? But it's not just sharing, hey, I closed on these 2 houses, or hey, I'm so glad I could help this person close on this house. But like telling a story about why you do what we do, and telling the story of the clients is hugely impactful to the other people that are scrolling on social media. Like, I can promise you, people care that you help people. They don't care that you sell houses, right? So what I mean by that is, if you guys are on social media and you're sharing your story, share some about real estate, share some about your personal life. Like, you guys have heard this, I'm sure, by being in a lot of different classes, but it's not just around how you got, like why you got there, it's around how you got there. So how did you help this first-time home buyer get into this house? How did you help them sell their house and buy a new house? Like, telling their story and making sure that your reputation and your story is kind of attached to it. That it's a big piece about it. Like, that is a big piece.
I would say
Lynette,
too, it's like there's the branding of Jose Medina and Associates, but then the agent that goes out and actually meets like the client and stuff, like that's the personalization of it. So like it humanizes it, and it is now a personal story, and like, I'm going to help you through whatever the situation is, kind of thing.
yeah, 100%. That's why, and I think that we're all KW here, and I know that none of us are leaving KW or we wouldn't be on calls learning. But sometimes I talk to other agents that are coming over from other brokerages, and they're like, I'm so worried that my clients are going to freak out when they find out I'm working with a different brand. Like, people don't know and they don't care. Like, they know you, they know your story, they know why you get up every single day and sell real estate. They know how you help people. And that's why they do business with you. So I think just making sure that you understand your story and that you're promoting that. I think we say that a lot. Like, we literally say all the time on our leadership team, like, we never tell our story enough, right? Like, we're just never doing it enough. We're never going out there and sharing our wins enough in a way that is impactful and authentic. I think that's the other side of it. I think when you share your story, you become, like you said, you humanize it and you become more authentic to the person that's reading it on the other side. So. Cool. All right. The second one is understanding your customer story. So when I think about this, I think about, again, we're creating super fans here, and it is not just like the VIP is not a one touch fits all. The same thing happens with our customer story. So understanding what your customer's story is and what they want out of this transaction is so important. Asking really good questions. I just taught a class on DISC the other day, right? So connecting with somebody on their level and how they want to be treated and communicated with. Your investors are going to be very different than your first-time home buyers. And you know this, so you've got to interact and understand their story in a little bit of a different way, which I also think will affect the way that you follow up with them. Anything to add here, Rachel, on this one?
I think the biggest thing, even from the podcast and stuff on this one, is what is your unique selling proposition? Like, as an agent, whether you're on a team or you're standalone agent, like, what is it that makes you different than the other 1,000 agents in the county? Like, what makes you stand out? What makes you better? Why should they work with you? Like, knowing that information is super helpful. And a lot of people think, well, I'm available all the time. Okay, well, you and 1,000 other agents. But really, what does make you different? And that kind of goes back to your story as well. Like, where have you helped most people? Where do you really find the experience, that type of thing?
Right. I was just going to say something, and I lost it, so never mind. Yeah. Oh, I think I was going to say, yeah, understanding your value proposition and how you're different. And then, like, again, sharing that, but also connecting that to the right person, the right customer, the right client. Because they're not working with you because you give them chocolates, right? I would hope not, Rachel. They just get chocolates by working with you, right? So again, understanding your value proposition and what you bring to the table, because it is very different. I mean, everybody on this call right now has very different value propositions, and different brands and different stories. And so making sure that you're really listening, learning, and connecting. And then the next one is then personalizing, right? So I think I think the podcast, which you can go and listen to, it's the MREA podcast by Jason Abrams. It was probably 2 months ago that they played it. The whole thing was really around like being very authentic and connecting with people, but in a very systematic way, right? Because that's what we have to do in real estate is we've got to connect with as many people as we can, but we've got to do it in a systematic way that brings people to us and makes them feel like they're having a great experience every single time, even though we put it on the calendar for them to have that experience, right? So like if you call them on their birthday or you call them when you know that they got back from Italy, it's because you put it on your calendar, I would hope, to call them and ask them about Italy. They don't know that you put it on your calendar. You're just authentically trying to create this super fan of yours by doing it in a systematic way. So the next one is personalizing every experience. Like different people do get different things. Different people do get different touch plans and they get different follow-ups. And sometimes they get candy and sometimes they get egged, right? So making sure that you're personalizing every experience to each individual client. And that doesn't have to be I'm going to personalize my marketing or I'm going to personalize if you're going to get photography or not. That's not what we're saying. You're personalizing the experience beyond the transaction and in the relationship with these people. Anything else to add to this one, Rachel?
What I would say to that is you need to ask questions. Like you need to find out what's important to them. Where have they been burned in a real estate transaction before that you want to make sure that you don't drop the ball on that? Or why aren't they using an agent they used before, whatever. But asking a lot of questions to find out what kind of experience they want, whether it's in your follow-up or it's in your actual transaction.
Yeah. And this one goes into the next one, right? Because in the conversation we had, it was exceed expectations. And that again is you don't know what their expectations are unless you ask them what their expectations are. So I do think in that first initial listing consultation and that buyer consultation, whatever that is, what are your expectations of me as your real estate agent? Like first, tell them what your expectations of them are. First, lay out what you're going to give them. But I do think following up with that question of what are your expectations of me throughout this transaction, and then going above and beyond. So Rachel, you kind of shared that if somebody says, I would love for you to call me every single Friday and update me on where we are, like you're going to call them on Friday and Monday because you want to exceed those expectations. You don't just want to be the real estate agent that does what they say they will do. Now, if you are only the real estate agent that does what they say they will do, I promise you, you are still above other real estate agents, okay? But what we want to do is create super fans, not just normal people who have a decent transaction. So in order to exceed that, you've got to give them more, but you don't know what more is unless you ask, right? So what are your expectations of me during this process? Even like Rachel said, asking for feedback at the end of an event and saying, we're not going to change everything, but we do want to hear what you're like, how can we make this better? What can we do? I think that's a big thing. And you don't know how to exceed them if you don't know what they are. And I think that I said this in the DISC class a little bit. When you go into listing presentations or buyer consultations and you walk out of there and you think, wow, I did amazing, and then you don't get the listing or you don't get that buyer, it might be because you didn't ask them what they were looking for. And so you didn't know how to react and give them what it is that they were looking for, even in that conversation. And a lot of that comes with reading the room and mirror and matching and things like that. But exceeding the expectations is how you win with them. Anything to add there, Rachel?
The biggest thing with that to me, asking questions and being intentional about it. So like, just like Danielle said, putting it on your calendar, but being intentional, making sure you're know what they expect and go beyond that.
Yeah, good. And then the last one is repeat and then repeat and then repeat. And so when you get to the end of a transaction with somebody, you're like, oh, I've created this super fan. I'm at R. You have to repeat. So you have to start over again with these people, right? Like they finish the transaction. If you're a high S personality, you're very good at following up with them. But if you're not an S personality, sometimes it's easy to move on to that next transaction. So you've got to continuously pour into these people and create these super fans and create this experience for them over and over and over again, regardless of if they're buying with you, regardless of if they're selling with you. You have to make sure, again, we don't do it enough, but you repeat it. You have to make sure that they understand your story and why you're doing this. You have to make sure that you understand their story and why they're doing it. And so it doesn't stop after this. You have to continue to repeat it to sort of create these super fans within your community, within your database, within your other thing. The only thing I will say and kind of leave you with, and I do think we can open this up for some questions, I just want to respect your time as well, is, and I said this a little bit earlier, but I think a lot of the times the flex used to be, I've got 7,000 people in my database, or I've got 5,000 people in my database. And really, I think the real flex is how many of those people have you in their database, right? So what we're trying to create with this super fan mindset and this VIP client is we want to be the people that they call for everything that they need, right? They might be in 15 other agents' databases as well. Like the flex is not, I have this many people in my database. It's how many people do have me in their database? How many people have me in their phone? And as soon as they need something real estate related, they call me because they trust me and they know I'm gonna give them the best experience, or I'm gonna give them everything I have in what they need for their transaction, or their client, or their friend needs, or their family needs, or whatever that looks like. So I think by doing this, we are able to be put in other people's databases so that they call us when they need things. So I'll kind of leave you with that. Rachel, any other like parting words or anything? And then if you guys do have questions, you're more than welcome to throw them in the chat, or any ahas or anything that you guys have, or unmute, whatever. But Rachel, anything else you want to leave them with?
Well, kind of like to follow up what you were saying, it's like become the resource. Like the whole idea of having a top 50 and having those touches in that year is like, it's not to necessarily have your top 50 be the same 50 people every year. It's to like, you have touched them so many times and you've connected with them so well over that year that after that year, you can still touch them and they can still be invited to all your client events and stuff like that. But you may not have to be as intense or as an intentional in your touches, and they may not have to be in your top 50, but you are the resource for real estate, or you are the resource for, I need someone to mow the yard because I'm going to be gone on vacation. Like, giving that information, like making sure that you become the professional and the real estate professional that they need to reach out to. That's kind of the whole intention of the top 50 and the touches and things like that. Some of them will stay on repeat. Mom and dad, they can stay on my top 50. It's fine. And they're going to keep, sending me business. And I also have to get some other people off so I can put other people on and actually be intentional about building that relationship and becoming a resource for them as well.
Love that. Cool. All right. Any questions or anything before we hop off?
I know Lynette had put on there about, faces being kind of a brand and being concerned about changing pictures and things like that. I think that has been a real estate issue since the dawn of time, because you would see people, their picture was from 25 years ago or something. And you're like, what? They don't even look like that anymore. Kind of funny. Your brand is beyond just your picture. And so like just building your brand, making sure your name is known, that type of thing, like being on signs and stuff like that. We can change, and we have changed Jose's picture. It's not the same one from high school or anything, but it is important, and there is, some continuity to it, but you can definitely switch up concepts and ideas and still have your brand and still have your push, pull, whatever you want to call it. So
She said Jose looks the same. He's blessed. There's a funny story around that about an AI headshot, and that's a different conversation for a different time. But yes, he still does look the same. Okay, cool. Any other questions we can help answer for you guys? I hope that this was valuable. I hope you pulled out one thing or two things that you guys can use. I would just say if you guys do have any questions or need anything, you're more than welcome to reach out to myself. I know not all of you guys are in our market centers, but you guys have great team leaders too that can get you connected to people. I really just think you start very small, but I think you have to start somewhere. Like I think every single person on this VIP list should be touched in some way, and you can start a small VIP list, but I think doing something versus I'm going to just talk to the masses all the time is the way that you win smaller, and then you get those transactions. So, all right. We appreciate you being here, Rachel. I appreciate you always. If you guys need anything, don't hesitate to reach out, and we will see you on the next K1 event. Thanks so much for being here, guys. See ya.
bye.